Hello everyone and welcome to another video, and what so far has been an absolutely disastrous week of trying to film a video for the wintering. So I'm going to make the broader topic of this video on adversity, as I face some of it this week. Obviously very first world adversity, as it's all a case of things being missing for cameras, or weather preventing certain things happening, or things not arriving on time, or scheduling not lining up, etc, etc, but problems nonetheless. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make my flight on time. I'm going to see you in a hotel in about 2.5 hours time, and then we are going to sit down for a bit of a Q&A and all of the questions that I've been asked on Instagram. So just a quick reminder, if you haven't yet liked the video, please do so now. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so now, and I look forward to seeing you very, very soon. And we have touched down in London ahead of the very exciting news that Gymshark's Regent Street store is opening 2 days from now. Today is Thursday, tomorrow is Friday, and on Saturday they open the doors to the public. I'm here tonight and tomorrow for the PR party and a full athletes day tomorrow, but then I'm back up the road as I'm hosting people at the rugby on Saturday for the Scotland-England game, and then playing golf with my dad on Sunday morning. So being in London all weekend would have complicated those plans that were made months ago. So anyway, here I am, and I'm very quickly going to dive into the questions that you've kindly sent over. But before I do, I thought I'd touch on the topic of adversity, as I felt a little bit of it this week, just around practical considerations, challenges, kit management, and dare I say a little bit of complacency as we move into the winter. Campbell, who helps me film videos, and I have got used to running and gunning, working in preferable conditions, and twice this week we've been caught out by very small but significant practicalities that have made life difficult. And as we produce one YouTube video a week, there is that time pressure. Every single week we work in that sort of cadence, and that means that when we miss a slot because something goes wrong, we then need to find a slot later in the week to cover the same thing, but it might not then fit with the training, and it just all becomes challenging. And around work, around businesses, and around training this week, that's been challenging. I'm not saying, oh, look at the adversity, look at how much I've suffered this week. All I'm saying is I've been forced to sit back and actually really reconsider what the wintering is all about. And that is tackling, understanding, and charging towards adversity. It's stepping out into the unknown, it's embracing the cold, embracing the challenge, embracing the obstacles in front of us, and embracing fear, ultimately, because it's intimidating to go outside in the rain, the wind, the snow, the cold, all these things that we don't want to do because they're uncomfortable. And I've spent this week recalibrating a little bit on my goals. I was hoping to share them with you in a video that we're going to film this week, but we haven't yet got there, so that will be coming very, very soon. But all I want to do is set out the stall for what the wintering is going to be again, because we are mapping out what the videos are going to look like, we're mapping out what my training is going to look like, we're mapping out what bigger events I'm going to have along the way, and I'm very, very excited to have you along for the ride. And given that you're along for the ride, let's answer some of your questions, eh? Okay, so let's start with a big, profound question from Sam Flewers. What are your goals for 2023? Well, Sam, and everybody else watching, goals for 2023. Athletically, the big one is the Norseman, which is in August, as I want to really do quite well there. I want to make a really good video about it as well, so I would say keep your eyes peeled, but that's probably a bit premature. Just stick around, yeah? Alongside that, growing and scaling both businesses. The challenge at the moment is trying to reframe the business model and structures in both so that we continue to scale without actually pushing any more work on our plates, everybody involved, because we're quite at capacity. So it's about rethinking the business model and moving things in the right direction. There's some clear numbers financially in terms of KPIs and things that we've got to focus on. I'm not going to share them here, but we want to see year-on-year growth, and there's some specific metrics that we like to focus on to be able to make that a bit more tangible and feel like we're moving forwards. There's some very exciting sort of contract propositions on the table for next year. A lot of things I'm wanting to build, a lot of community interaction I'm wanting to build and scale as well. So that's quite a vague answer, but in the short term, I want to have a good time doing what I'm currently doing, but doing it on a bigger scale. Kenny Mark 001, are you doing another challenge for Movember this year? So a bit of context here for those that don't know. 2018, 2019, 2020, I took on 3 significant challenges for the world's leading men's health charity, Movember. and we've raised just over £100,000 for the cause, so very, very proud of that and something very close to my heart. I'll be growing a moustache this year, but the scale we got those projects to, the interaction, the practicality, the logistics, the finances, it was a full-time job on top of a full-time job on top of training for them. So I need to be honest with myself this year on capacity and actual capability. I'm scaling and running 2 businesses. I've got my own training to worry about. I've got social media to worry about, the podcast to worry about, as well as trying to spend some time with my loved ones and seeing people every once in a while. So I need to be honest about what I can achieve, and that means that big Movember projects are currently off the table. There is a mechanic that I've been working on ever since 2020, but it needs to be the right time and have the right people behind it and have my plate cleared enough for me to really go at it without worrying about things in the background. So things to come, but excitingly, if you are Edinburgh based, every Wednesday throughout November I will be hosting a run club in the Meadows at 7 p.m. We've already got loads of people signed up when I'm recording this on Thursday, so a week yesterday is going to be number 1. So every Wednesday throughout November, 7 p.m, the Meadows, Edinburgh. Be there if you are local. We're going to provide some free stuff, there's going to be goodie bags, and I may even incentivize people by donating to their Mo spaces if they show up for week 1. So there's going to be a link for that in the comments and in the description, so do please come along if you are local. D.M._po, very common name. Will you ever compete in strength sports again? Maybe, maybe not. I think there's a few cool powerlifting competitions. The ABS series look really cool. They've got flames and music and good videography and things, so that looks pretty cool. But Dinny Stones really gave me the buzz that I used to get from strength sports back in the day, but I don't have much interest in showing up to a powerlifting competition and being weaker than I used to be whilst really, really prepping and peaking for that top end strength. I'd much rather work in strength alongside the endurance stuff and kind of push them side by side without necessarily stepping on a powerlifting platform. Maybe I'll focus on my Olympic lifting, maybe there'll be some elements that I'll work in. I'd love to do a strongman comp at some point in the future, but right now that's just not where my priorities are. So short answer is not right now, long answer is never say never. Ooh, another profound question, the WAF 16. So he's obviously the 16th WAF, whatever that means. Other than all the fitness you do, who is Fergus? Who am I? Wow. Well, well, well. In essence, I am oh God, existential crisis incoming. So to summarize, I host a podcast. I present myself on social media around my athletic abilities. I then run a corporate wellbeing solutions consultancy business, which is The Modern Mind. That also has a podcast, which is sort of public facing, but a lot of that is not stuff that I share online. That's behind the scenes with corporates and things. That's very fulfilling. A lot of work with schools, really, really exciting stuff. Challenging emotionally because it's on mental health and how we can improve well-being in the workplace in a more holistic sense. Alongside that, we've got Omnia, which is fantastic to be able to serve people worldwide with their strength and endurance goals. And I'm a partner to Erin and a father to Harley and Pig, the dogs that I own, and I have ambitions to be a father to actual human children at some point in the future. So if I had to summarize my identity in a sentence, I'd probably struggle, which is telling, in fact, but that's for me to deal with in the background. But essentially, I am... Oh no, I was trying to be succinct, I can't. Who is... How about this for wankiness? I'm an athlete entrepreneur. Ugh. I feel ill. Next question. Fu Manchu. I wonder what you choose. How much mobility work do you do? Aside from limbering up my hips a little bit before lower body sessions, none. Full range of motion, under load, opens me up enough. If I was doing Olympic lifting, I'd spend a lot more time doing mobility work, but essentially most of the intensity that I'll be doing at the running and cycling pacing that I'm doing at the moment doesn't demand too much mobility as a warm-up. I want to loosen off my hips, I want to loosen off my hip flexors before lower body training or any sprint work, but that will be about 5 minutes of sort of wiggling and shaking, and I'm not going to send you to ROMWOD for this sick program that you do 8 days a week, because I think a lot of people would spend their time better doing more training and less focused mobility work, personally. Fight me in the comments on that, but that is my opinion. Nick Alex Guitar. I wonder if he's related to Nick Alex Violin that I went to primary school with. Anyway. Do you have any thoughts on Dr. Huberman's complete fitness protocol video? No, haven't seen it. If anyone has and has thoughts, please do share them in the comments down below. But generally, I think the Huberman Lab podcast has some fantastic information, but ultimately it's just moving in sort of understanding the science as it progresses. So one study might say one thing, one study might say another thing. So all I'd encourage people to do with it is not take everything as gospel and understand that science is ever changing, because I've seen comments and threads online where people do treat the latest update from Andrew Huberman's Twitter feed as the be all and end all, and that's the only way that people can live their lifestyle. So don't be a zealot, have an open mind, and yeah, that's kind of my summary there. So I'm gonna, off the back of this, I'm gonna go and look at the complete fitness protocol video, and if anyone brings it up again in the comments, I will happily discuss it with you once I have an informed opinion. Ben Dryden, any plans to do collabs in the near future? I'd love to. There's some people that I've got on the hit list, as it were, that I know and have been talking about doing a collab with for ages, but it's just very difficult logistically, practically. I like to pull out all the stops for people when they come up to Edinburgh, etc., get them wetsuits, get them really looked after, but that takes a lot of time, commitment, days, so difficult to line up calendars. If anyone is interested in any specific collaborations that they would like to see, drop them in the comments down below, and I will do my best to make it happen over the winter, as I'm sure there is a lot of fun we can have by bringing people up from the south to the north, not even the north of the north, to Scotland, where I should sound like this, but don't. I actually sound like I'm from the north. I'm losing my head a little bit. Next question. Eddie Magnus, what is your opinion about intermittent fasting while training for a marathon Ironman? My question in response would be why? If it's because you work shift patterns and a constrained eating window is better for you and that's the only way it makes sense and you can eat all that food no problem in that time window, then great. If it's because you think it's going to have some impact on your gut microbiome or something you've read in the deep dark Reddit thread, then no. I think it's suboptimal for performance, especially if performance is your priority. You want to be constantly fueled and recovering as optimally as possible, so a steady input of calories into the furnace that is our beings is probably a better way to go. So is that an opinion or just a follow-up suggestion based on me needing more context? I don't know, but hopefully that made sense. Seamus_Birch, how would you structure training for someone who wants to try hybrid training like you? I would send them to Omnia Performance, where we have put hundreds of hours into creating the resources and facilities for people to do exactly that. Top link in description, and I hope to see you there. Joe Atherton 98, recently got into cycling, tips on avoiding saddle soreness. Do you just get used to it? A little bit over time, yes. You can kind of callous your gooch, for want of a better phrase, but chamois cream and bib shorts are your friend. I am horrified at how many recreational cyclists have messaged me over the years that don't know what chamois cream is. It's basically like cycling Vaseline, so it doesn't destroy your bib shorts, it doesn't destroy the fabric on your clothes, it smells nicer, and it doesn't feel quite as odd sticking your finger into a tub of Vaseline and placing it on your nether regions. Patomoro, how to keep calm in cold water. So obviously it depends on where the anxiety is coming from. If it's the cold and it's a gasp reflex, then really taking a second to really get under control of your breathing. I've always used box breathing, which is sort of 4 seconds in, hold for 4 seconds out, then 4 seconds before you breathe again. And that's a good way for me to just focus on my breathing, bring it back to a level that I can control before I sort of acknowledge and get on with the cold again. And in that time, you'll adjust to the feeling of the cold a little bit anyway, but it's just exposure over time. Your first open water swim doesn't need to be swimming a K1/2. It can just be getting in a wetsuit and getting into some water and experiencing it, and that is a big success. Not going to go any Strava file, no, but you have made progress, and that's what we're all about. If it is anxiety coming from the scary sea monsters that live in lakes, even though they're not natural to the habitats of the UK, for example, like I have suffered with, that is just repeated exposure over time. So I do occasionally have the odd panic when I see a shadow beneath me that I'm about to be chomped by a sea monster that hasn't existed for thousands of years, arguably never existed, or the sharks that have never inhabited the waters around the northeast of the UK. I probably never will, but it's just something that's improved over time with exposure. So be safe, go with a group, bring a tow float, get yourself in there, just learn to feel it, learn to control your breathing, and then if it's something that's coming from it, anxiety will ultimately be improved by repeated exposure, but obviously make sure that you're not putting yourself in a really, really anxious state where you're at risk of losing control or anything like that. Have people with you, get under control, and watch this video here, as it will give you all the tips and tricks that I recommend over the winter. Rube When do you start to train for the Norseman? This is a good question, and one that I have been considering a lot myself recently, as I don't think I've got it in me to train for something for 9 months, because that would very much make me a triathlete and not a hybrid athlete. Yes, I could train my strength work along the way, but it would feel a bit pointless, and when I don't really see the point in training certain disciplines, I don't enjoy them as much, and I train to enjoy things, so why would I do that? So I want to break it up a little bit along the way with other goals, but I don't yet know what they are. There's an argument that I should commit 9 months to the Norseman to get a black t-shirt, because it's a pretty competent crowd to be in the top 160 when it comes to race day. But again, I'm not competitive against other people, I'm competitive against myself, and whilst I do need to be competitive against other people to get a black t-shirt, that would devalue the process of training it for me. So these are the thoughts going through my head, but ultimately I am getting back into the swing of things with training as of this week, ultimately after an extended period of recovery from the double brutal, a week of illness, and now I'm back to things this week. I'm going to make some decisions soon on what the stepping stones towards the Norseman are going to be that aren't going to inhibit my development towards the Norseman. So essentially, you could argue I've started training again this week, but if you're looking at specificity, I don't know when that's going to start, but it's probably not going to be this side of 2023. So watch this space. But yes, there is going to be a Norseman prep series, and oh boy, is it going to be exciting. Question from Frazzle, which is coincidentally how I expect to feel after the Norseman. Frazzled. Probably the most seamless transition from question to question we're going to get, so I've peaked. Anyway, do you use Strava? Is it any good? Yes, I use Strava. Yes, it's very good. I use it to consolidate all of my data that auto-uploads from my bike computer, Zwift, Garmin, etc. I then review all of my data after every training session. I look at calories, pacing, heart rate, distances covered, segments, comparing rides or runs over time, because it sort of plots them over the years if you're doing the same loop over and over again, same route over and over again. So you can look at how you performed in different conditions, how you performed at different body weights, how you performed at different times of the year, etc, etc. As well as that, these segments allows you to not only compete with yourself, but to compete with others. So if Steve, the neighbour with the unkept garden, is winding you up and then he goes and drops you on your local hill, then not only can you chase after him on that hill in the segment section, but when you beat him, you can go to his profile and say, haha Steve, I dropped you virtually, brackets, on that hill, and also please mow your lawn. Cheers. So there's lots of opportunities to engage, there's lots of opportunities to follow professional athletes. You can follow myself if you'd like, and you can do so through the link in the description down below. If you are not yet signed up to Strava, that link will direct you to signing up, where you can explore all of these features for yourself. And one of my favourite features, on top of the consolidation piece, is the fact that if you're in a new place, if you're traveling, you can go into maps, you can go on to run, or whatever discipline you're doing, you can choose your location, you can choose your distance, and it will give you a selection of routes to choose from that you can load into your bike computer, your device, your phone, whatever it might be, and just set off to execute a good training session in a new place, breathing new air without worrying about navigation. I am in London, I know London very well, I lived here for several years, so I'm not going to use that feature today, but I would were I in a new place, as I have been in the past, and I have used this feature several times. I actually used it at my house the other day and found some routes I didn't even know existed, and have since ruined those for myself by running on them so many times. Lessons learned. Anyway, with that in mind, head to the link in the description down below, get involved. If you're on Strava, you can follow me on there. You can sign up to the Omnia Performance Athletes group. You can sign up to the Modern Mind Run Club. If you're not on Strava, that link will allow you to sign up, and you can engage with all the stuff I've just mentioned on there. With that in mind, I'm going to go out and do my run. I'm going to come back, I'm going to review the Strava data. I'm going to pick these questions back up. Okay, so let's go from glowing to blowing. And blowing, as you can probably tell. So what was meant to be 10k at 4:30 to 4:45 minute per k pace turned into 5k at that pace, as I always forget whenever I'm in London. Whenever my heart rate gets over 155, my asthma just flares all the way up with the pollution, especially over the winter, although it is much warmer down here, so calling this a wintering episode is quite blasphemous. But nonetheless, asthma flared up. I've settled it down with my inhaler now, so call it 5k. Lungs, legs felt okay, to be honest, better than I expected, given that's the first bit of moderate or hard effort work I've done since about 4 weeks before the double brutal. So building blocks step by step, getting back into it. But it was just my breathing. I just didn't feel like I could get air in, and my heart rate just climbed up and up and up to the point where I thought I'm going to call it 5k. Plus I got held up for like 6 minutes by what was about 2,500 cyclists at some point on the corner of Hyde Park. Don't know whether it was just commuters or whether there was something going on. I don't know. Either way, it was ridiculous, and it slowed me right down. So I'm going to get in the shower, and I'll see you right here for some more questions. And I'm back at the desk, as you have become oh so familiar with today. So, in terms of reviewing data, what I'll do after every training session is jump onto Strava, and here it is. My asthma wins again, as I have so aptly captioned it. And 5k, 427 minute per kilometre pace, moving time 22:19, 405 calories, average heart rate 162, and that started to steadily climb up towards the end. But then what I'll do is I'll just sort of review the data here. We've got segments, we've got workout analysis, we've got my splits, and then I can go into some deeper dive analysis on elevation, pacing and things like that. So it's all there, and I use this as a review point after every session. And just a quick reminder, use the link in the description down below to either A, sign up to Strava, or B, join me and the broader gang on Strava worldwide, as there's a whole load of people using it, and you can too. Edward Maliavani, how to run through ice and snow. So either A, get yourself an aggressively lugged pair of trail shoes, as they'll act like football boots to some degree, but obviously make sure the surface is firm enough and sort of sticky enough that you're not going to slip and hurt yourself, as I don't want to give out any dangerous advice on here. Or B, you can put on a pair of micro spikes, which I use for Monroes in the winter. They're like slip-on crampons, effectively. Obviously, if you're in heavy-duty crampons, you're not going to be running down the street. That would be ridiculous and probably quite difficult. So, micro spikes or aggressive trail shoes, and if either of those don't work, then I recommend a treadmill. Cole Cambro, a fellow Scottish podcaster, in fact. How does the weather impact where and when you train? So in terms of spontaneous thinking, not much. In terms of planning, massively. So I will keep an eye on the forecast week by week and make adjustments where needed in terms of access to gyms, access to the outdoors. If it's absolutely tanking it down with wind and rain, then I probably won't film a video there. I might adjust my kit. Mostly, the answer to your question comes down to kit management and prep, which means I need to be pretty diligent with rotating it, washing it, knowing where it is, having it easily accessible, getting out of the car after a training session rather than leaving it in there to fester. I've got an admission though, the back of the truck still has stuff from the double brutal in it, so I'm just a big hypocrite liar at this point, I think, Cole, so apologies. Bottom line is, it impacts the kit management around where and when I train, and I will occasionally cock that up, which means I'll have to change the plan. Bailey P.L. Clark, maybe you're a powerlifter, maybe your middle name is Percy Livingston, I don't know. Anyway, tips on getting up and out, exclamation mark, question mark, ooh. Finding it too easy to snooze my alarm. I have been there, my friend. I think the best things you can do is lay everything out before, and if you can, arrange to meet somebody. Because if you set a time to meet somebody, you don't want to be the person that bails. You kind of enter a game of chicken somewhat, where if you wake up at 5 in the morning and the other person hasn't messaged you that they're going to bail, you don't want to be the person that then sends that message. You're probably both wanting to bail, but by agreeing to meet at a set time, by both laying your stuff out the night before, you're preparing yourself for success. And you know what they say? Prepare to fail? No, they don't say that. They say fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Fail to know common cliches, fail to make effective YouTube Q&A answers. Greg D297, do you guys do one-on-one Ironman including weight training coaching? Yes, that is a lot of what we do. We have training plan offerings and one-to-one coaching options, and a lot of our athletes are actually doing exactly that. So top link in description for Omnia Performance access if you are interested in any of the coaching options that we have. Steve Mark Perry, how do you quote-unquote keep it social for mental health reasons with so much training, especially in winter? I'm not a very good person to answer this because I am notoriously bad at sacrificing social life and interaction for training, because I'm kind of weighing up when to play my social hand, when to keep it closer to my chest, when I just need to do the work and accept that's a part of it. It comes down to your goals, it comes down to how you manage your mental health. My mental health is better managed by making sure that I'm getting out and doing the training, but I have recently really been enjoying training with people. So if you can arrange to do things with people, train with people, maybe it's subbing out a strength endurance session for a CrossFit class every once in a while, maybe it's joining a run club, maybe it's having somebody join you for a long run on a Saturday and just scaling your pace back a little bit so you can have a conversation. Over the winter, if you're not in race training prep, you don't have a race overseas in February or March, you can afford to enjoy your sessions, make your sessions a bit more sociable. I'm for sure going to be doing that. My bike ride this Saturday is going to be the first bike ride since the double, and it's purely for social interaction and spinning my legs out. So it's up to you in terms of how much social interaction you think you need, but I'm probably not the best person to ask, to be honest, because it's something I need to get better at. Lionel runs and lifts. Love to hear it. Do you ever go for chiropractic work, sports massages, etc. as part of preventative maintenance? No, I do not, but you can if you want to. I just don't perceive much tangible benefit off the back of them, and think people would be better focused spending that money on a training program that doesn't have them doing so much training in the first place that they feel like they need those preventative measures or additional recovery protocol to bring them back from doing too much in the first place. Ben Cowton, best way to train indoors? Probably with your clothes on. I learned that the hard way in 2009, so yeah, don't make the same mistake I did. All jokes aside, just make sure that you've got a plan. It's easy to just go into the gym, go into the swimming pool, go to the treadmill after a long day of work in the winter and just feel like you've got something done because you want to stay on top of things. But if you don't have a plan, you're not going to have any intention, and it's easy to just enjoy being warm and fuzzy inside before you go outside again. So make sure you have a plan is the main advice I'd give you there. Hayden Gibson, 1994, stay aerobic over the winter, question mark. I assume you're asking if I think we should all stay aerobic over the winter, and the answer is no. I'm a big fan of training across energy systems all year round. I don't really do too much of a base phase, don't really work in mesocycles, don't really periodize as conventionally as you would were you doing just strength or just endurance, because we want to better monitor the relationship between the two, and that doesn't really account for the principles of periodization because they're interfering with one another. So individuality is king here. If you can get away with just being aerobic over the winter, then great. I have to reduce my intensity over the winter because I cannot breathe outdoors when it gets to a certain level of cold as my asthma flares up. But it means I can do stuff inside, on the treadmill, in the pool, on the watt bike, on the turbo trainer, all that sort of stuff. So it depends on your training goals ultimately, but there is no specific reason why I would suggest that we should all stay aerobic over the winter. No. Anze Kumar, and Zakumar. Logistics, gear prep to train outside, how to do it time efficient and unstressful. There's no real way around that, to be honest. It's one of my biggest bugbears with winter cycling, hills, open water swimming. There's a lot to consider. It's a pain in the arse. Ultimately, all I would suggest is setting up the systems in your household with your kit management so that you have a clear plan for how to manage it. Don't just get a whole load of kit dirty, get home, chuck it on the floor, have a shower, and then think, oh, what am I going to do with that now? So for example, for me, when I'm open water swimming, I come in the side of the house, I dump everything in the utility room, I then hose it down, I then hang it up outside, and that means I'm kind of containing the mess, and then once it's been hung up outside, I mean, not over the winter, but it should then be dry for me to use again. I'm getting back in the groove with this. We've cocked up this week with kit management. I didn't have everything I needed in the right place at the right time with camera equipment and with training equipment, and that's kind of cost us, hence why I'm sitting in a hotel room doing a Q&A. So it's a work in practice, it's a skill, but ultimately set up the systems and the parameters around your training. So again, make sure you've got a plan and then execute them and keep your discipline around them. Final question, as I'm running out of time, and to be honest with you, need to go and buy some deodorant before I head out into a social setting. So, who wins in an arm wrestle, you or Johnny? The big question, Mr. Alex_Bishop19. We've actually never tested this, but as Johnny is about to launch a YouTube channel himself, I think we have an arm wrestle on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. So, dare I say, watch this space. Right, that is me. I appreciate that's been a bit of an unconventional video for the norm in terms of not much training footage, not much actual dynamism. It's been me sitting here talking to you and losing my head slightly with some strange humour, some serious tangents, and not much of a variety in terms of background, I will admit. But hopefully you've enjoyed that, hopefully that's been insightful, hopefully you're still here for the rest of the wintering, as I would love if that was the case. Just a reminder to check out all the links in the description down below. Make sure to sign up to Strava if you haven't yet already. Make sure to check out the Omnia Performance coaching options, top link in description. Check out the podcast, which is in there, and there's a whole load of other fantastic brands that I work with that are very kindly giving you discount codes, which also very kindly help out myself and the channel, so it would be massively appreciated. It is 7:05. I'm meeting downstairs at 7:30 to go to the store for the PR party tonight with all of the other Gymshark athletes, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And tomorrow I'll be filming a full day in the life around it, which is going to be quite a busy day, if I'm quite honest. So I am going to go and buy myself some deodorant. I'm going to thank you once again for watching. I'm going to make sure I've got my inhaler close by at all times because London's pollution absolutely wrecks my asthma, and I'm going to bid you good night. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time.